Welcome to Volume 11 RockTalk Podcast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music. Your hosts, Rich Hoffa, Rick Lawhorn, and Mark Dunn. RockTalk, Volume 11 Music.
Hey, this is Rich, and we're at Volume 11 Music in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and this is Rock Talk with
Rick Lawhorn,
Mark Dunn.
All right, so we're going to get into a couple different topics and today, and we're going to start talking about. It really spawned about an article I'd seen after I'd seen Ozzy had been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then Eddie Trunk had put a blurb on there that how the Rock Hall is kind of dropping the ball with getting these artists. These guys are either dying off or can't even walk, in Ozzy's case, to be up there to accept their awards and really enjoy it. But before we get into it, I want to tell you a couple of happenings here at Volume 11 Music. First off, we're in the process. Our current website is really not up to date as much. So if you want to see what the up to date inventory is, please visit the Reverb page. There's a link to it that has everything on there. It's probably 95% of the inventory on there, and it's up to date. The new website should be live in a couple weeks, and the cool thing about it is that it's going to have everything's going to be real time. So we'll have pretty much 100% of the inventory on the website, and each day it will update itself depending on whether it was sold on Reverb in the store or the website. So that'll be nice. You'll know exactly what we have in stock and how much of it. And another thing, PRS is doing a holiday sale, so all PRS SE guitars are on sale, 15% off through December 31st. So
my favorite color is purple, in case you want to get me one.
Yeah, there you go. We got some great ones in stock, and some other colors and things like that on the way.
Awesome.
So guys, I don't know about you, but I have mixed feelings about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I watched some of it. I've seen some really great performances. As far as the tributes to the bands that get there, and then you look at bands that probably you shouldn't be in there because they're not rock and roll to me. I mean,
right.
It's more of a music hall, but for rock and roll. And then I looked up an article, and there's all these bands that aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So,
and I've been aware of that for a long time, and I've been shocked at some of the people that aren't in that should be in.
It very well should be in, and so I'm sure we all have our opinions. I wrote down a bunch of
ones who've been omitted.
Yeah,
yes,
and really, I mean, one of the biggest ones that I've got on the list here is Boston. I mean, how is Boston not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I mean, seriously, really?
I guess they need to get more than a feeling.
What
I just need a little more peace of mind.
I mean, they have a song called Rock and Roll Band.
Yeah,
that is the epitome of what they do.
I know. I mean,
but I think there's politics involved with it.
I was just going to say that.
Right.
And I don't know that. I mean, I don't think that. Here, to be fair-minded, we all have different tastes, but we also can objectively say whether or not I listen to U2. They've sold a crap ton of records internationally and have an esteemed career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether or not you like them. And I almost think that some of the decision-making processes seem as though, if you compared the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the TSA at the airport,
right?
They don't make logical choices for who they shake down.
Right.
So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame goes, God, who really played out of tune? Yeah, they need to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
And who looks like they might do something shady on that grandmother over there in a wheelchair. We definitely need to give her the wand. So it just seems like some of the decision-making processes are wonky.
Yeah.
But so it sounds, I don't want to sound like a hater, because how can you not sound like a hater? But this list you have are obvious choices that should be in the Hall of Fame.
And I left some off because the list was getting pretty long, but I mean,
I mean, Cactus Jack is not. I mean,
Cactus Jack's not Sweet and Nasty, Mark Gunn Band. I mean,
right.
but bands that jump out. Of course, Boston. Ted Nugent. I mean, I know
Ted's probably pissed a lot of people off.
Ted's pissed a lot of people off. But you know what? You can't, you just can't not acknowledge what he did for rock and roll and guitar playing. I mean,
I think the prime example, though, like the first band that should have been inaugurated, in my opinion, and I'm not even a huge fan.
Yeah.
Is Kiss.
Right. Yeah. Well,
they just got into
They just got in, right.
There's a lot of 70s, 80s bands that are in there. I mean, Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you I mean,
yeah,
the voice of rock and roll.
So the voice, Dio, of course, amazing singer, obviously. Brad Delp of Boston, like we just talked about Boston.
Right.
Paul Rogers.
Right.
I found
who still sounds amazing.
And Paul is still somebody said, Rick, who do you think is like some of the greatest voices ever? And that's debatable and it's subjective, but I would definitely say Paul Rogers, one of my favorite singers.
Yeah.
And that raspy, bluesy, cool voice
still
of
sounds
his,
great.
and he still sounds great. He was with Free, he was with Bad Company, he worked with Jimmy Page, he worked with Queen, and he's not in the rock and roll.
The Firm.
Yeah.
In the Firm, yeah.
And solo.
How do you not have Paul Rogers
I know.
in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, it makes me wonder if Rolling Stone might be in charge of some of the balloting. No offense to Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Wink, wink.
But, I mean, all of these subjective lists that they've made over the years, I mean, every time they come out with 100 greatest guitarists list,
Right.
it's almost like they make that list just to piss me, you, and Nick off.
Yeah, well,
And because it's so absurd.
Well,
but again, it's like taste. It's like, come on.
Well, it's with all that stuff too. I think it's especially with guitar players. I think we touched base on this on one of the episodes, but for me, like guitar players, it's not so much. You have technical, and then you have what they brought.
What they brought to, like we talk about Chuck Berry.
I mean, different.
Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix brought something, a whole new dimension.
Yeah, I mean, so technical. You get technical with the Steve Vais and the Satrianis and guys like that, and then you've got the other guys, Keith Richards or whatever.
And how do you say the best anyway? But I mean,
I
look at it from the impact.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, like if you look at. Is Tiger Woods the greatest golfer of all time? Not by virtue of his stats.
Right.
I don't think he's caught up with Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer on some things.
Right.
But the impact that Tiger Woods had
right.
is still being felt today.
Absolutely,
for sure.
So that's where I'm coming from. So when you look at something like that, it's like, where do they get these lists and where do
It's
they...
almost like there's a dart board and they're just throwing darts and going, all right, we're going with the Teletubbies this year. They're going to go in the Rock and Roll.
I started really paying attention to it when they inducted Dolly Parton. And Dolly Parton's like, she's like, I'm not a rock, and then she put out a rock and roll album, just because. Yeah. And I think that's
her cover of Magic Man is really cool.
Yeah. I think it's really kudos to her. I mean, they're very respectful.
So then should Slayer be in the Country Music Hall of Fame?
Well, I will say this though.
Yeah.
Is Aerosmith in the Rock Hall yet?
I didn't see. I think they are. I didn't see them on.
So Aerosmith. I mean, there is going to be some cross-pollination.
Right.
Aerosmith belongs in the Hip Hop Hall of Fame if there is one.
Yeah, they did with
because Walk This Way could be considered de facto the first rap song. Not trying to take anything away from a culture that really brought rap up from the inner cities and the streets.
But that song made it. That was mainstream.
That was beyond mainstream. My next door neighbor,
MTV, is going to get us back into the next episode.
The next episode will do it.
But for sure.
And my next,
it's a great record.
We grew up next to an African American family that's still in the house next to where I grew up. And the son that I used to play with, when he heard "Walk This Way" by Run DMC. He had no idea that Aerosmith had written the song.
Yeah, it's an Aerosmith song.
I'm like, step into my office, and I showed him the original. And as he listened to the original for the first time, he actually already knew every lyric.
Yeah,
he sang along with it, and was like, wow. So I think that there's like when you have Dolly Parton, I being offered to go in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, my eyebrow came up too. I'm like, she's awesome. But 9 to 5 ain't a rock tune.
Right.
No.
And she definitely deserves to be in the Country Music Hall of Fame without a doubt.
She deserves to be in a music hall of fame.
Yeah, she's royalty. But for rock, you have a certain, perimeter. And we said, okay, we're going to talk about okay, Joan Jett, that's a rocker voice.
Right.
That is rock and roll. So, or like I said, Paul Rogers. Dolly's great, but I wouldn't say that's a rock and roll voice that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, they have all genres of music in there, and I think it's gotten to where it's not really the rock anymore. It's more of the music hall.
Maybe you should rename it. Just rename it.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, my vote is to have it, have a separate one. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was been there forever. So, but I mean, when you look at the bands, I mean, I just, making a list, and I left some bands off of here that were great too. But it seems like too, you've got some of the early generation stuff, and then you got the 70s and 80s, and a lot of the 80s bands aren't on there either. But I mean, like Bachman Turner Overdrive, Blue Oyster Cult, Bad Company,
Foghat,
Jay
Roger Earl's still alive,
right?
But
how they, get him in there.
But Styx, I mean, the hits that Styx has, how are they not?
Well,
in
that's
there?
because the Rock Hall has too much time on their hands. That's obviously.
I mean, and then you got the whole Southern rock thing. It'd be Blackfoot, Molly Hatchet, the Outlaws, 38 Special.
They just overlooked the entire.
None of those. I mean, they put Skinner in. They go, okay, we've got our.
Yeah, that's our one Southern rock band. Nobody else.
Southern rock. That's it. We don't need anybody else. But I mean, there's Billy Idol, Motley Crue, Iron Maiden's not in there.
Yeah,
Motorhead. I mean,
that's
REO
crazy.
Speedwagon. I mean, how many hits do you have to have? I mean, REO Speedwagon. How many hits you got to have?
I mean, they had a High Infidelity was a hit album.
That whole album, every song was a single, pretty much at a #1 back in the early '80s.
Yeah. Crazy great record. And the album cover was awesome too.
Or a band that sort of spearheaded a movement of music, like I was talking about King Crimson for progressive rock.
They're not in there.
They're not in there. They're like the first band that was really like they are a progressive rock band. They should be in there to represent the whole progressive rock movement. No mention of them.
Yeah. Well, there was, like I said, I only wrote down. Well, this is a lot, but
it's a lot there.
But it's a lot there, but there's even more, and but it's just amazing to me that what do you got to do to get in, but also we're not getting any younger. Get these people in their rock so that they can enjoy it while they're still alive.
You know what's interesting about it too, and this is from reading Steve Miller's complaints about it, because when he was inducted probably maybe a decade ago,
I remember him going
his speech, they literally it got leaked out. It was not part of the overall show that they would present because he went scorched earth on the Rock Hall.
Right, I do.
He said, why do you have to make it, when you finally come out with the choices that are questionable, I'm paraphrasing what he said, why do you have to make this celebration of what is so wonderful so uncomfortable? The band members had to pay $5,000 a piece for their own seat. Of course, he picks it up, I guess. But the fact that you would have the audacity to say, your band's going to be in the Rock Hall, how many members you got? Okay, that's going to be $25,000.
Yeah, right.
Just sit at the table.
It's pay to play, folks.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, he pointed all that out, and it's just embarrassing. I mean, maybe that I know that there's a Rock Hall Foundation. I know that there's benefactors to it. I'm not one of them, but they also, it's not free to get in, I don't think. I mean, they have to maintain the exhibits and stuff. But to charge a band to come into or an act to come into their own portion of a show that's honoring them,
that is odd.
It's also a reflection of the music industry.
Yeah, right.
Hey, we want to book you for a gig. How much money you got? It's okay.
Well, Keith Richards once said he'd rather hang out with mobsters because they're nicer people than most of the people.
They're ripping you off. They're going to rip you off, and they smile
Keith
about
had some
it.
great comments on that topic.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of that stuff. I've seen it in this business, with certain things that they do around town, and then the next thing you start getting, if you finish in the top 3, the next thing you got somebody call, where do we send our plaque? It's going to be $300. I go, for what?
Well, I mean, I don't think Grammys are free either. Well, I think there's some metallic value in a Grammy.
Right.
I think it's partially gold or something, but I don't know. The fact that there's a Rock Hall of Fame is cool.
Yeah.
But I would just like to understand what the calculus is for judging who gets in.
Yeah.
With like the Baseball Hall of Fame, for example, you have all these sports writers that are a collection of them that are voting members, and that membership might actually rotate.
Yeah.
But they objectively look at stats, career longevity, just the overall comprehensive work of a player, and they vote on that based on, and they only get 5 votes if you're for the Rock or for the baseball.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And they get in, and so there's at least some sort of an objective set of metrics,
Yeah.
But I mean, there's an objective set of metrics for music, which is an art, in that in the business, you can't deny sales. So whether you like a band or not, again, back to the beginning of this conversation,
Right.
the first objective metric would be, well, how much money did they make for the actual crooks? You know?
Right.
I mean, and when you sell like U2, for example, I mean, they've sold, I can't even tell you how many millions of records they've sold, you know? Mm-hmm. And you've got some of the bands that are not, this is no disrespect to one's economic contribution, but some of the bands don't belong in the conversation at all.
Right.
They're beyond art. I mean, cool, but, you know, that contribution, while it's part of the painting, is a speck compared to a big portion of the picture. And the bigger bands that we have listed here, Boston, Bon Jovi is in. He did
yeah,
get
okay,
in.
so you just got in. 'Cause
He
that
did,
was,
yeah.
I don't know when the article came out. But,
That was about, I think he got in probably in the last 5 years.
yeah.
And, I mean, some of these bands, you can't, I mean, like REO Speedwagon, Styx. I mean, the amount of, you could look at their continuing royalties on songs that were released in the 70s.
Yeah.
And there's still major contributions to the economy of the music industry.
Right.
And being looked over.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
Now, is this a fair argument? Not that I believe it, just throw this out there. Because there is the concept that some of the critics have talked about that probably are involved with who gets in about, well, REO's, they're corporate rock. Styx is corporate rock. The record companies push them. They got an unfair advantage, so that's the reason they sold so many albums. You know,
I mean,
as
the
opposed
music
to
didn't suck.
No, I agree. I mean,
that's
I'm
the
a
thing.
fan
I mean,
of both
they
those
got,
bands.
You know, great songs. I mean, REO Speedwagon and Styx. I mean, I seen Styx, and it was Styx is one of those bands. I mean, they got a couple songs, and then, I was in my other life. I was at a meeting, and we had Styx perform for all the dealers that were there, and it was just, and I was sitting there listening to it. I'm going, well, it was just one hit after another.
they're a hit
The whole
machine, no doubt.
concert was just nothing but hits. I was,
Yeah.
and because of different singers and the band and stuff like that. A lot of songs they didn't put two and two together, but but they massive amount of hits.
I used to be on the same management with them, and that was when I was with the country artist, and we did multiple shows with them.
Oh wow!
So that broad appeal of bringing, and well, I mean, country's rock and roll, especially when I was in that particular band, but just the juxtaposition of the two genres. I mean, Styx just transcends so many. In other words, nobody doesn't know who they are.
Right.
Even if they don't know who they are,
They know the
tune.
songs. Yeah, sure.
kind of like Creedence Clearwater Revival. They're the same
yeah.
way. You got hippies love them, rednecks love them, yuppies love them. If you're anywhere you play, people just seem to love a CCR song.
Oh, yeah.
And they just sort of
And
transcend.
hippie redneck yuppies.
Yeah, redneck yuppies love them too. Yeah, I mean they kind of transcend any target audience, if you will. It's just a band that most people dig. Like they just say it's a fun song. It's a
And
cool
they hit at
song.
the right time too with Fortunate Son with Vietnam, and he was bringing the truth about the rich kids not being drafted, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was they struck at the right time. But I've got multiple students that come and asking to learn CCR.
Same here, all ages. I get 12-year-olds. My uncle likes this band. He turned me on to him. Can you show me how to play some of, like you said, Fortunate Son? And I got 64-years that want to learn CCR songs. It just seems to. There's not like I said earlier, a target audience like there might be with, say, Slipknot. It's just kind of all across the board.
Yeah.
I think that there's a couple. I find it interesting to this conversation that it made me think of this. There's a couple of festivals out there that I see every year which have a wide swath of genres that are performing, and it makes me go, that homogenation or homogeny of the different genres is really kind of cool. Bonnaroo being one of the festivals.
Yeah, right.
But some of them, I mean, had the extremes of like a Slipknot to a Tyler Childers on different days, and just the stack of different genres going on all day long is like a music fair, which is kind of cool. And that might speak to a little bit about how the Rock Hall, how we kind of look like, where did you get that idea? But there seems to
Throwing
be
darts at the dartboard.
right, and I mean the evolving of music genres. Like my friend Danny Chauncey was the guitar player for 38 Special for close to 30 years, and when we were hanging out in the 2000s, and when I was playing in the country with the country artists, and I said to him one night, I said, if 38 Special was a new band, you'd be on country radio. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like that. How do you, if it's that kind of an evolving with the musical genres? I mean,
Yeah, or like say another good band, that example, like say Marshall Tucker Band. You know,
Right,
that
right.
they were considered Southern rock back in the '70s,
But
and put on the
somewhat
rock,
progressive.
But, yeah, exactly. But like later on, it could be it's a little more on the country side of it. You know,
yeah,
so
but only
it's
them and Jethro Tull were blowing flutes.
flutes. Yeah,
right?
a little bit early Genesis.
Well, Jethro Tull's not in there.
Tull's not in there with Ian.
They should be in there alone for winning the best metal
Yeah,
album
Metallica for
over the
metal.
Black Album.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, they should be in there for the funniest.
No, they beat them
Grammy
out
winners.
on Injustice for All.
Either
It
way,
was
two
89.
huge albums. I mean, like, and the winner of best metal album is
Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull.
Jethro Tull. Like, there's almost a question. I was waiting for Ashton Kutcher was probably still in diapers. I was waiting for his head to pop out and go punked.
Right, exactly.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for this episode of Rock Talk. If you like what we're doing, you like the content, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel so we can keep doing these kind of videos. And again, if you have any questions, please email us, send it in. And what else did I leave off?
I think we got it in this episode.
I think
we're good to go.
I think that's it. And don't forget to support your locally owned
yeah.
music stores and musicians.
Specifically, Volume 11.
That's it. Support us. We can keep doing this. We're having a great time.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's it. So we'll see you next week. Thanks. See ya.
This has been an episode of Volume 11 Rock Talk Podcast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music.